Hello crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. In this Brother Scan and Cut tips and tricks tutorial, you are going to learn how to cut out stamped images. There will be lots of tips and tricks such as how to first do what's called the scanning cutting position adjustment, because before we cut out stamped images, sometimes they're just not coming out right and you have to align your machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about this visual illustration I have here for you. So we're going to use the Scan and Cut piece of white, basic white paper to align it. Next thing I'm going to teach you is just how to cut out a basic stamped image. Like this little guy, this little guy. And we'll even show you how to get the little bunny onto the trunk. Okay, so there's a couple tips and tricks for that. Then I'm going to show you how to cut out this tree, which takes what's called the pencil trick. It's a little bit trickier than any of these. Now this I already have a punch for, so I don't even need the Scan and Cut. But this one you would even need a little trick because there's a little gap. See that little gap? You have to fill that in with a pencil. So this tips and tricks tutorial is filled with lots of ideas, and I'm using the Friends of the Forest, which is available, by the way, on January 4th. Okay, so this is a new stamp set, but I'm going to show you in my project. I did one project. Hello, Melissa from San Antonio. I'm going to be saying hi to you as you come in. Hey, it's Christmas time. We're going to have a good old time, and some of you may have got a Scan and Cut. And what would be nice is if you get to use it, right? Use your Scan and Cut, your new Scan and Cut. And if you have an old one, maybe it's like time to pull it out and use it some more in the new year. Okay, so I like to do a lot more basic tutorials during this time of year because I know Santa's giving some of you guys a Scan and Cut. I guess I got ink on that. All right, let's talk about the first tips and tricks. And I see that Yvonne just joined us too. Awesome. All right, hello Yvonne from Utah. When I cut out Friends of the Forest the first time, it may have came out okay, I think the first time. Then I tried it again, and I started getting this sort of wonkiness, and which was fine. It's still acceptable, meaning I'm okay with that. In fact, what you should get is something like this. Let me show you one of my colored bunnies. This is what you should get. You should get even white space around your stamped image, okay? The right amount of white space all around it. Now, when you start getting this kind of thing, now it becomes unacceptable. Although it's still going to be, I'm still going to use this guy. I'm not going to throw him out. It's just that there's too much space, too much white space around the top and not enough around the bottom. Okay, so here's our problem we're going to solve, and we're going to solve that first before we even do the rest of the tutorial, because this might happen to you where, like, one time you scan in and it cuts fine. The next time it doesn't cut fine. Has that ever happened to you? Like, let us know here in the comments. All right, so I'm going to load a piece. Well, I'm not going to load anything yet. I'm putting a piece of white, basic white. Okay, this is 12 by 12. You need a piece of 12 by 12 basic white. It doesn't have to be 12 inches necessarily down. I'm using my old Whisper white, but basic white is fine. Basic white is the newer one. This is just my older paper. We used to call it Whisper white. Now we call it basic white with a different code number. You need 12 by 12, but it doesn't have to be 12 down. It only needs to be 12 across. So you need to put a piece of white paper here on your mat, but don't load it yet because it's going to, I need to go back to the beginning for a second. Okay, don't load it yet because it's going to tell you when to load it. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. And some of the cuteness you can look at over there. All right, we're going to go to this settings. Oh, by the way, I'm using STX 125. You have better alignment options with CM models, but if you have any STX model, it's going to look just like what I'm showing you now, but you can still align any one of your machines going back to the very beginning. It's just that usually before we were able to manually align them, and now we have to do this automatic alignment, which, hey, I'm not a fan, but I'm still teaching it to you. Okay, let's go to the settings, and we're going to scroll down. These little settings, by the way, are little groups of, so I'm going to go back up to the top so you can see what I see. You're going to start with language, right? Then I have units and inches. If you want to know all these settings, I teach an entire course on STX 125. There's an entire course where I go through almost every setting. I say almost because you never want to say all. It's probably to almost every setting. And the courses are linked in the description of this video. Let's find, this is what you want to do. Scroll down to scanning, cutting, position, adjustment. Okay? Now, it's going to say the carriage and mat will move into the initial position. Keep your hands away. Yada, yada, yada. Just say okay. Now we're going to load the mat. It says load the mat. So we're going to put the mat right here. And then we're going to use the load mat button, right? Load mat button. It says attach a white sheet. Did you see that little message? It says attach a white sheet. And it says make sure your lever is set to 1. That's the lever on the left side. And it says start. So I attached a white sheet. You saw me touch the white sheet. I'm just kind of letting you see down the bottom of the screen here what's going on all around. Now it's going to scan it in. And we have some more visitors. Hello, Donna Joe. Hello, Nola. I'm glad we have some late night crafters awake here. So I'm just excited to try out. I couldn't wait to show you this. I was like, should I wait till January? No, I need to show this cuteness of this new stamp set. So I just decided to go live. So what it's doing is it's making little sort of hash marks. I saved one for you so you could see what's going on. Like it's doing this in the paper. I had done it a couple times. It's doing it across the 12 inches, but I just saved it because I used this piece a couple times. So then it's making the little marks, the little crosshairs, and then it's scanning them in for you. And you don't really have a choice whether to say yes or no. You just have a choice to say yes or no. You think you have a choice, but really, if you say no, it just does the same thing all over again. And if you say yes, then it'll accept the settings, okay? So you really can't say no here. If you say no, all you're doing, okay, here's the question. Let me show you the question. The question is, does the red center of the circle align with the center of the cut? You pretty much have to say yes. Okay, I'm going to say yes. Because if you say no, all it does is do the exact same thing all over again. And you're like, well, it just does the same exact thing all over again. And you don't really know if it worked. I'm going to go ahead and pull this paper off. See what I mean? You don't really know if it was quite aligned or if it worked until you start scanning and cutting stamped images. So we don't really know. So if you say no, it's just gonna align all over again, and you're gonna be like, well, that was a waste of time. So I'm gonna leave my mat loaded, and I'm gonna show you what I mean. So now we're gonna stamp a couple images on here, on this paper. Don't use the side with this because it'll just be one more thing to scan. Use the other side of the paper. Okay, I'm gonna grab a silicone mat. Let me move my machine completely out of the way without making it fall off the table. Okay, let's move this. Actually, I have a placemat, so we'll put my placemat down. So bottom line is, we don't know if it aligned right until later. But if you have a CM model, you would have been able to manually align it. If you said no, it would have let you use your little stylus here and nudge it around. And that's why it's one of the many reasons I prefer the CM models. But then I get asked constantly. It's almost to the point of I just need to have a little button on my computer where I hit auto respond this answer. What's the best model? What machine should I get? And all this stuff. Well, it doesn't matter that I like the CM model best, and that it doesn't matter what you like best or what I recommend, or it doesn't matter because only a few ones are sold or available at this time of year. Sometimes they stop selling them. They run out of them and you can only get a refurbished one. And sometimes they just push, meaning brother, just push a model. I'm going to go ahead and use the little fox here. So what we're going to do is take out the photopolymer stamp, and we're going to put it down, upside down, flat side up, right? And we're going to just kind of use a stamping block at an angle to get it all in there. Oops, let's do it again. Let's get it again like that, okay? And we're going to just do Mr. Bunny while we're at it. The top of Mr. Bunny. We'll do the bottom of Mr. Bunny in a minute. But the top of Mr. Bunny is could be Mrs. Bunny. Okay, put the top. So we're just putting that on a stamping block. Anyway, so they're not available all the time. And so you go on, everyone's like, oh, which one you like? And I tell them, and they go, I can't get that one. I'm like, duh, no kidding. I didn't say you could get it. You asked me which one I like. You didn't ask me which one I should get. Now, if you ask me which one I should get, I can answer the question much more definitively, right? If you say, which machine should I get? I say, get the STX 125. And then they say, is that your favorite machine? And I say, no. Well, why wouldn't I get the other one? Because you can't get my favorite machine. My favorite machine is the CM350, and usually you can't get it. So if your question is which one should I get the ones that are available. They're all good. It's good, better, best. I have 4 of them. I love all my ScanNCuts. But there's some that are better than others and for different reasons. I personally am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I do stamped images most of the time. Okay, I'm going to tap, tap, tap and put the little bunny over there and just test the bunny stamp on the image. So because I'm always doing stamped images, I have a preference for a certain model of machine. If you're doing vinyl, this is a better machine, STX 125. If you're making t-shirts, iron-ons, doing vinyl, right? This is a better machine for you. It depends on what you're doing. It depends on, this one has a vinyl roll feeder If you're making signs, you're golden. You can make, I mean, I make signs sometimes, but only like when my friends sort of kind of beg me to make them. And I really prefer doing paper crafting. I'm using Memento black ink for stamping so I can color with the Stampin' blends later. Leave room for the little tree trunk for your little bunny to sit on. So don't put anything under him right now. Now let's put a few little foxes on here. Let's do foxy, foxy. So anyway, that's my lecture about the question. You wouldn't believe the questions I get asked like constantly. Hi, Sheila. And it's always like, what machine do you recommend and what machine is your favorite? And so there's the answer. My favorite, CM350. What do I recommend? STX 125. 125E, because that's the one they're selling right now. I have a 125 and a 125E. They're exactly the same as far as I'm concerned. There's no difference, but they changed the model numbers, I guess, because of the packaging and maybe like they did a little bit of something or other in the guts of it. Okay, I just stamped a couple foxes there for you. So those are easy to cut out. Now let's do this little trick with the little bunny while we're here. So we need to take the little stump and put the bunny on the stump. But it's kind of hard, even with photopolymer. Actually, I'll put that over there. Even with photopolymer stamps, sometimes the little tree trunk is hard to like line up exactly on the right spot. So what I did as a visual for myself, this worked for me. Let me just stamp the tree trunk. Always stamp over there first. Let's get a sticky note or a piece of scrap paper, and you want to put a sticky note. Kind of works better because it's a bright color. And what I did is I took this sticky note and I put it right along my bunnies. Well, right there. So I could still see through my bunnies. I don't know if you could see that I could still see my bunnies here. See how they're, well, you can't see it, but in this. Okay, my bunnies are sort of semi-translucent. So what I mean the sticky notes, and I'm just stamping there. So what I'm doing is stamping right under the bunny. Here, actually, I need to make this go up a little. We'll just do one bunny at a time. Let the bunny sort of stick out a little bit at the bottom. And then when you put this right up to the top of the paper, see? The bunny sits on the little stump. Okay, so I'm letting the bunny sort of stick out the bottom. That way I don't accidentally overlap the bunny, but now I only have to try to get this to line up to the top of the sticky note, and it's really bright and I can see it. It's not really bright and I can't see it because of this plastic above it if I don't put the sticky note there. But because the sticky note's so bright, little bunny legs are almost sticking out the bottom. See? Now I lined up the stump perfectly. And the reason you want these to touch, because if they don't touch, you have to connect it with a pencil. It's touching enough. It should be close enough where the ScanNCut thinks it's touching. But if not, you actually have to touch it with a pencil. We'll get to that when I do the next little trick with the tree later. All right, so let's now turn the machine around. And we're going to just now put this on the mat. If your mat's not very sticky, maybe you want to tape it later, but don't tape it now, because right now you don't want to cover the registration marks. The registration marks are important for the scanner to know where your little things are that you need to cut out. So we've done our scanning cutting position adjustment. We're going to click on home, or just go home and click OK. When you turn on your machine, this is what you see. You're going to see pattern and scan. You're going to click scan because you're going to scan in the stamped images. So go ahead and click scan. We're going to next select direct cut because we're going to directly cut out the images. Now this is asking you where do you want to store them. We want to store them on the machine. And then this is asking, that's just a temporary storage area. This is asking, do you want to scan 12 by 6 or 12 by 12? Just go ahead with 12 by 6 because our images are up near the top of the mat. And we're going to click scan. And it's just going to scan in these little guys for us. And this would have been the same way. I'm just not doing another bird right now because I've cut out enough birds. And when I do my tutorials for you, I just do things I'm actually working on. And I've already cut out enough birds. So, except that bird has a little hole in it. I don't know how come he got a hole. Anyway, click OK. And this one was too far apart, so we're going to just go with that. We'll move that over. We won't select the bunny on the right. We'll do the pencil trick for the bunny on the right. So now we have the two foxes and these two bunnies. We're going to first click on Ignore Object Size if you want to get rid of any small bits. I think that stump might connect to my bunny if I do something else. Then you want to, and I made a selection. I don't know if you noticed, I made a little red selection. Next, you want to put a little outline distance around them. And when you put the outline distance, they sort of melds together as one big shape, which is what you want. And then when you cut them out together, you get this white outline distance around those and they become one object, which I liked better than having separate little, I did do separate bunnies and that was cute too. My bunny's separate for Easter. I want my bunny like here, right? For the Easter, I want my bunny to be separate, but for the forest, I want my bunny sitting on the stump because he's perfect size. So let's click OK and click OK. And we're going to just select cut, and then it's going to cut out our stamped images, hopefully with the right border amount around them. Now at this point, if you wanted to do a little tape around your mat, you can, because it's already, it doesn't need to scan again, it just needs to cut. What it's doing now, I'm using auto blade technology, which I do love about the SDX 125. It determines the depth of your paper, and then it determines how much it needs to cut. And so that's what I like about it. I like auto blade technology. It's very nice. You don't have to set your blade depth. But if you are setting blade depth, if you have a CM and you're cutting basic white, which is what I'm using Whisper White, but let's just call it basic white because that's what we sell. And if you're doing that, you would use a blade depth of 4 if you're using a CM model of machine. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how it did. And let me say hi as well to Janet from Florida. Happy holidays to all my crafty friends. I'm glad you could join me in this late night crafting session. I'm thinking right away it came out pretty good. This one didn't, but that's because we need to use that trick on that one. We're going to use the same paper again, so it's no problem. Okay. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. So I'm going to use the same paper again, but I might just do the bunny real quick separately for you. Just to do, I mean not separate, but separate from this. Because I don't want to have to scan in. If I scan in these images again, they're going to get selected thinking it's a shape to cut out. But I really just need this guy. So we'll put a tree. What we'll do is we'll make a tree over here. I'm just cutting a little piece of paper for the tree. And then we don't have to scan in a whole lot of extra paper. Okay, let me get rid of this. And we'll get back to stamping in a moment. But let me now tell you how to remove these here from the mat and show you our results. And we'll put them on a black piece of paper and compare them to when I had an alignment problem. So we're going to put this down. Right, that was my problem I had. Looking for my spatula. Okay, so take your little spatula, right? And you're going to take and lift up. Okay, now we have bunnies cut out with the stumps. And now you have extra. All these guys are your embellishments. This is what I call your bucket of crafty goodness. When you start putting all of these in a bucket, you do these all at once. So it doesn't take you, you don't want it to take you an hour to make a card. You want it to take you 5-10 minutes to make a card. Maybe 10 minutes, because 5 minutes for coloring. So you can color all these separate, put them in a little bucket. Then later on you go back to them and you just stick them on the card. So it's an assembly line process. So that's why you make a lot of these at once. So there they are, and look at the before and after. Look how much better these are. And actually there's some in between. So that's before. Let's see. Here, let's do the in-between. This is before. The color's going to be off because when you have black and white on in a color camera, it kind of goes like a little wacko. Those are the ones I just cut out. There's before, and then see how much white space was above them? And then in between, I got a lot of white space on the bottom. Before, I got a lot of white space on the top. This is what you want. This is perfect. This one, not this. This one is from before. See? These two? The right amount of white space around them. Okay, so that's how to do the scanning, cutting, position adjustment. That's the before and after. That's how to cut the bunnies. And now the only trick left to teach you is the pencil trick. If you don't know the pencil trick, this is going to be a lifesaver for you. We're going to get this is going to be like save you hours upon hours of frustration from now until the eternity of crafting. Okay, so you're going to put your piece of paper there. And you're going to get your big stamping block, because now we're doing the tree. We're doing the big old tree. So now I'm using stamping block E. And let's get out the big old tree. I'll give you some coloring tips too when I show you my project. I only did one project so far because, as many of you know, I just unboxed this a couple days ago. Or yesterday? I don't know. It's all a blur. Recently, I just got this shipment this week. So these are not even available to customers yet. There's a little bit of lint on there. All right, lint from, I used my what do you call it, the little baby wipes, and I have to use a little piece of baby wipe just to get that lint off. Otherwise I get a little spot in the tree. But if you get a little spot in your tree, then don't worry about it. You put a little bird there. That's what those little birds are going to do. They're going to cover up any inking mistakes. All right, so for this tree, you can mount it the same way. You can just kind of put it on your flat side up when you're mounting a stamped image, right? Photopolymer, and then stick it onto the stamping block like that. Now we're going to put some ink on it. You're going to put the ink on upside down, Memento black ink, because you want to get good coverage. And you see how that's not good coverage yet? Keep going, and then always test it before you test it on your paper to see if you have good coverage. And if it's not good coverage, oh, I should use the mat too. Perfect. It's good coverage. Good enough anyway. So sometimes you just have to be good enough, not perfect. Oh, a lot of extra ink got on there. That's fine though. So when I color these with alcohol markers later, this Memento black ink is perfect because it doesn't smear. I'm going to see if I can't do 2 of these, let's see. On this paper, I should have probably given myself a bigger piece of paper, but I'm going to hold this for a few seconds onto the paper. Good ink. Our white papers have very good ink absorption. Okay, good. I don't know if I could fit another one there. I'm not even going to bother trying, but when you do stamp a bunch of these at once, I only need one, and I'm hoping it's going to work because I should have stamped 2. But what you want to do is then do the next one this way, leaving yourself a little room around it. All right, so let me look at the time, and as a teaching tool, I'd like to show you, yeah, I'm doing good on time. So what I'd like to show you is the wrong way to do this first, because it doesn't matter if I teach you something if you don't know why you're doing it, right? So I want to teach you why we're doing this. So putting this down, and by the way, it doesn't matter where you put this, the stamped image. I just stick it wherever my mat is sticky. So let's go back to the beginning and move some of the stuff out of the way so I can get over here. Oops, sorry, everything's shaking all the time. Shake it up, baby, now. All right, go back to the beginning here, and we're going to click OK. So what we want is, oh, I didn't mean that. All right, we're going back to the very beginning, and we are going to, we see pattern and scan, and we're going to go scan, and we're going to do direct cut. Okay, so Janet's saying how to keep the ScanNCut from recognizing inside images. That's why. Exactly, Janet. Thank you. You couldn't have asked a better question. This is exactly how. We're going to go direct cut. Okay, her question is, how do you keep the ScanNCut from recognizing the inside images? Well, you can't unless you do something. It's going to recognize these. That's exactly why I'm showing you, Janet, this exact tip and trick. Because you can't, because it's a ScanNCut, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is scan in all these little objects and try to cut them. It's doing exactly what it's taught to do, the engineers taught it to do. And unless you tell it something else, unless you give it a different command, it's going to do exactly that, and it's going to be a hot mess. So that's why I'm going to teach you the pencil trick. But until you see what the mess is, you don't know why you need this trick. So let's click OK. We did the direct cut again, and we're going to just zoom in, or not zoom in, so make a selection there of just our tree. And all those, you can see all that little, that's just the mat around the sides, right? All that stuff around the side, it is the mat. All right, so let's just go preview. Okay, preview. So what did it scan in? Okay, let's zoom in. Let's zoom in again. Can we zoom in some more? 400. Okay, 400. I think that's the biggest we can zoom in. Look at all the stuff that it scanned in. It's great if you want to cut out tiny little leaves until Kingdom Come. I mean, how crazy would that be? Right? It scanned in everything. Okay, that could be a problem. Let me just show you how many things it scanned in. I'm going to just, even if I try to put an outline distance around it, even that, look at that. I even try to put an outline distance around it. I could show you in the edit mode. I'm going to go edit and look at, let's zoom in, look at all these trees. And the reason I mean, all these leaves, the reason I know they're separate, because you might say, oh, they don't look separate to me. Well, look, you can tell they're separate. Look at them all. Even when I put outline distance and they start trying to overlap, look how many of them there are. There's hundreds. It would make a big confetti all over your paper. It would be a complete mess. So that's the whole point of my next trick. Okay, so let's leave it on the mat. Okay, and her question is, how do you make the scan? Well, you don't let it recognize the inside object is how. You take a pencil, and there's no trick here. This is a number 2 pencil. I mean, there is a trick, but what I'm saying is I'm not using a magic pencil. You go to the office supply store and you get yourself a pencil. And you simply go from the trunk, there's your trunk, and you start with the side, And this is what's called the pencil trick. I call it the pencil trick. I've been using it for so many years. And you're just kind of, and the reason I'm doing a little bit of a wobbly curve around the tree is because, and it doesn't matter if you even get like inside your leaves. Like here, I can actually, I'll lift it up in a minute and show you the results, but I can actually go inside my leaves a little, because what I want is I want it to recognize sort of a jagged edge around the tree. If I want this big bowl shape around the tree, I could make it like a circle, but I want the tree to be a little bit more natural. Okay? So the pencil trick is now it's going to think this is all one object. Doop. Does that make sense? That's the pencil trick. Put it back down. Putting it right there because my mat's sticky. But you got to scan it in again. You got to scan it in again. So now we're going to go back to the home button, scan, direct cut, save it to our machine. This is just temporary storage, and start. So now instead of that hot mess of 1,000 little leaves that you got to try to cut out and have confetti all over your paper, you're gonna cut out one tree with a sort of a raggedy edge, and then you're going to be able to put that in your card. Okay, we're going to click OK, and there's the one tree. Okay, there's the one tree. Is that an awesome trick or what? So let's go. Let's get rid of all this. Now we want to get rid of all the things in the background. That you want to select out the stuff you don't want. So we're going to select just the tree. We're going to do ignore object size to also get rid of the little bits around the back, the little dirt. I'm just ignoring some small things. Don't ignore things that are too big because you'll be then ignoring like the little bird you're trying to cut out. But you might want to just ignore the object sizes for some of this dirt around the mat. And now we're going to click OK. Now, do we want an outline distance? Yes, because the last thing you want is your tree to be cut so tight, but then your bunny next to it to have this big white border. That would look silly. So what you want is you still need the outline distance of the 0.04, the thing that we've been doing for all of our little critters, right? This little white part, this little white edge, or not have it. I'm saying whether you have it or don't have it, there's no right or wrong way, whether you decide to have the outline distance. But if you're going to have it, be consistent and always have it around your stamped images. So let's click OK, and we're going to click OK, and we're going to click Cut. You have to keep clicking OK and Cut. But in the other models, you don't have to click OK so many times. You just get to the cut stage. But basically, it's asking you, do you want to cut or draw? That's what all the OKs are doing. It's asking what mode you're in and blah, 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 blah. But really, you just want to get to the cut stage. So now it's doing, again, that little auto blade thing where it's determining, you know, the depth, the blade depth. And I'm just, see, sometimes, don't get your finger caught up in there, but sometimes I'm always sort of holding my finger there. Okay, the alignment is already off again, but the trick worked. Okay, so there's the trick. So now we got one tree, and now I'm going to show you how to erase it. The alignment's already off, and I haven't even taken the mat out. But see how that's off? There's too much white space on that side. And it could be a number of things like my mat shifting, but it's okay though. I still have a good tree. So it's enough to teach with everything. And I'm going to use the tree. So what we're going to do is now show you how to erase the tree. So this was a gift from one of my crafty friends, this one. I'm going to show you the electric eraser, but you might not have one of those, so I'm going to show you like to use this eraser. Just basically never use this eraser. When you're erasing your pencil marks, never use the red eraser because then you'll get like smudges all over your stamped image. So you want to use any kind of white eraser to get rid of those marks. And why get rid of them? You don't really like necessarily need to if you're coloring the tree really dark, but you want to get back to what the artist intended. And the artist didn't intend to have all those pencil marks. So I like to erase them to get back to the way that the image was that the artist created. But check out this electric eraser. So cool. I'll put a link in the description. I don't know if we can get them in our country. My friend from Canada sent it to me. I'm sure you can get them. I mean, we can get anything in our country, right? If the price is right, as they say. Now, these are easy to fix. So I love how much quicker that was with the electric eraser. It's just battery powered. But the thing is, you can fix these trees if your alignment's off. You can't fix a fox. Well, I mean, I guess you could fix a fox, right? You could cut it off with your scissors if you could fix the fox if the alignment's off a little. But if the alignment's off on a tree, who cares? You just go like this with your snips and you fix it. And it still beats sort of cutting it. But I just rather, I'm going to do my scanning, cutting position adjustment once more now and cut this out better. Now, you might be saying, I don't have to do that to my machine. And I love my machine, and I never have to align it. Well, good for you, because every machine has a different personality. And I'm glad you never have to align it or do your scanning, cutting position adjustment. But for me, I'm doing this all the time. So you can see why my personality of my machine, because again, they're each a little different, it needs some help. It's stubborn, and I have to always align my machines. Okay, so I personally like my CM better because I'm allowed to I can actually manually align it. And I could just sort of go up and down and see, it's almost like I could have just used my scissors in the first place because I'm doing so much cutting. Anyway, back to the project. All right, or to the project, and then I'm done, and then we're gonna be done. So Janet's saying she just penciled the icing plates. Icing places. The icing places? Oh yes, you're talking about, yeah. She's talking about a different kind of paper. Gingerbread and peppermint, which you can't get anymore, unfortunately. All right, so back to this. We're using Friends of the Forest, which you can't get until January 3rd unless you're a demonstrator, which there are like loads of demonstrators probably watching. And I think there are like 65,000 of us. And we get discounts on the products. So anyway, this is something you can get now. But if you can't get it now, you're one of my customers, you can get it January 4th. Now I'm going to show you what you can get now, which is the paper. The paper that I'm about to show you is perfect pairing with this. And it is called Beauty of the Earth. And then I'm going to show you my one project. And it did take me a while, but it won't take me a while next time because I'm just going to mass produce these after I sit down and color all the little cute images. You've seen me use this Thinking of You before and some of these other awesome Friendships of the Soul. I've done cards with this stamp set before. And you've probably seen me use this paper before. The paper is called Beauty of the Earth. This is available right now as part of our annual catalog. And because I saw that the color was Old Olive, one of the colors in it, I started thinking, what could I use as my card background? So I picked a piece of Old Olive cardstock, and then I just used different colors I wanted for the bunny, like Pool Party. Even though Pool Party's not in here, I just thought the bunny needed a little tint of blue, and I used Cajun Craze for the fox, even though I could have used Cinnamon Cider because Cajun Craze looks more like a foxy color. And so here's my project. Here's my project using the techniques I just showed you. So one of the things I wanted to say is a little coloring tip for this. And this part was a die because I do keep there's this one die called the Messages die where I cut out loads and loads of things to stamp onto. And I just stamped this friendship sentiment from here just onto one of those. But other than that, ScanNCut. Okay, you glad you're my friend. That's what I used a little die for that. But this was the bunny. I colored it with blends. So let me just tell you how I got this really cool effect on the tree. I think it's a cool effect. All right, so let's take Mr. Tree. I have another one I cut out from earlier. Okay, so we're going to put the tree down and grabbing my blends just so you could see. Okay, so Old Olive. What you're going to do is take the Old Olive alcohol blends, and there's a thin side and a thick side, and you're just going to use the thin side, right? I'm not coloring many because of time. I don't want to make you sit and watch me color a tree, although it is kind of therapeutic actually to color and to watch people color, but not right now. So I'm just kind of every other one, right? Every other one's a light and dark one. See? So you're just using light and dark blends. You can't blend them in the same little hole. It's too small of an area. So just do this. To get this effect, you do light and dark blends all over the branches. And then what you do is you take your little, and you could have done this first and not later. You're going to take your little blending brush, right? And you're going to put a little bit of ink from your Old Olive onto your let's see, here, get your stamping pad out. Take a little bit of ink like this, okay? A little bit of ink onto your stamping block is what I'm trying to say, stamping block. Okay, let's put that over there. And now you're going to take your little blending brush, right? Tap, tap, tap. And then tap a little bit off, right? So it's not such a big blob. See how it's like you got rid of the big blob, and then you could do this. Okay? Pretty cool, right? So that's how I got my tree to blend, and I did that around the edges. And then I did all the little coloring on the inside, blended around the edges. See, that's how I got that little effect of the tree. Then I took my little crumb cake here, crumb cake dark and light, and I did dark all on the branches. Okay, except down the middle, I did the dark I'm going to do loads of these, so I'm going to just kind of show you right now. Once you start doing it, though, you have to finish because this dries so quickly, alcohol markers, that if you don't blend them right away, you can't blend half of it. You can blend them, and then I'll blend the branches later, but, well, the branches don't need to be blended. You can just use straight up. Let's see, light crumb cake, that's ivory. Oh, great, lost my marker right when I'm trying to blend. So, anyway, let's see, light, that's ivory. I was just coloring the otters. That's what anyway, let's just use ivory for now. I'm going to go back and use some light crumb cake. Ivory will work if you don't have your light crumb cake, but I just had it. It must have rollen on the floor or something. Looking around. Looking at, I haven't gone anywhere except, walking around with it in my hand. And sometimes when you walk around with something in your hand, you put it down. But anyway, that's how I did it. I did it with crumb cake. Okay, so that was light and dark crumb cake. See the blending? Dark around the outside, light around the inside. This was Cajun Craze, dark around the outside, light around the inside. This was Pool Party, light pretty much except for dark. This is crumb cake. And the deer was dark crumb cake around the outside, light around the inside. So that's how I blended them. And then I took Wink of Stella. I do have the little tinted Wink of Stella, but I think I took like the white Wink of Stella, the clear one. And I just put little bit of glitter all around. Oh, and the tree and the little birdie was So Saffron, and like I said already, the paper is Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper. A little bit of bling. I put this one down flat. These ones up on dimensionals, and that's how I made the entire card. And then I did I did that same technique with the crumb cake for the tree. See at the bottom? I just went like that with the crumb cake. That ink. I don't have any ink on it right now, but I made the tree a little bit darker. That way there wasn't just this dark white around the tree. And I didn't mind white around the critters, but around the tree. Anyway, so that's my project for you. I hope you now understand how to cut out stamped images or pattern paper. The process is the same, whether you want to cut out pattern paper that you own or whether you want to cut out stamped images that you stamped. I hope you understand how to troubleshoot now when you get something like this and how to turn it into something from that is not aligned to something there. I've done many videos alone on just the topic of scanning, cutting, position adjustment. It's called scanning, cutting, position adjustment. So you can just go right to those kind of videos without watching this whole entire video to see that. Or it's actually at the beginning of this video. I hope you understand how I use the Memento Black ink because it doesn't run when you're stamping with that kind of ink. It doesn't run and spread all around when you're using alcohol markers like I am, the Stampin' blends. This is how to use the Old Olive. Just use coordinating cardstock. It doesn't matter which cardstock you use. Which designer series paper, as long as your cardstock coordinates. This is coordinating colors, meaning this is Old Olive, this is old. You could see the colors coordinate for the most part, except the blue. They use Balmy Blue in that kind of paper, and I use Pool Party because I just thought the bunny looks better in Pool Party. But you can make the bunny pink or the bunny a different color. And so he looks more of like a forest critter. It is up to you. All right, so that's all for now. This is the Paper Chef. I hope you have a very happy holiday season. See you real soon.